This might be an unpopular opinion or perhaps an unauthorized opinion, but I think if you break it down and really listen to what this guy has to say in the full context, you might just understand what he's actually getting at. And perhaps some people do understand this, but they're just a little bit too afraid to say it, which has been the case plenty of times in the past. So the right-wing, rage-bait, click-hungry media has taken this guy out of context, and we all know how awful things can get when it's missing context. So our billionaire buddy Chamath, or whatever his name is, part owner of the Golden State Warriors, said that nobody cares about the Uyghur Muslims, and the pearls were clutched across the right-wing media landscape. I don't know if the left-wing or mainstream media is covering this at all, and I don't even know where this guy stands politically. I can assume it's at least a little bit on the left because he is part owner of the Golden State Warriors, and I think we can also agree that the NBA as a whole is completely compromised. They are CCP puppet scumbags, but what this guy is saying here is just not that bad, and I'd be willing to bet that nobody listened past the point of him saying very bluntly that it's not on the list of things he cares about or whatever it was. And maybe it was just a slow news day, I'm not quite sure, but let's listen to what he has to say with a little bit more context and see if it's that far off base.
And maybe good for Americans. Like, I mean, his China policy, the fact that he came out with a statement on the Uyghurs, I thought was very strong. You know, it's one of the stronger things he did, but it's not coming up in the polls.
Okay, so this guy right off the bat says that he likes that Joe Biden made a statement about the Uyghurs, but it's not showing up in the polls. So wouldn't that lead you to believe that maybe it's not quite as big of a deal as everybody is making it out to be? And I'm not saying that what's happening with the Uyghurs is okay. I'm just saying that it's a world away, and people here got to pay $6 a gallon for gas. So maybe they're not really that worried at this particular point in time about what's happening clear across the world.
And I think the whole Republicans interested in getting Hillary to run again is
let's be honest, nobody cares about what's happening to the Uyghurs, okay? You bring it up because you really care, and I think that's nice that you care. The rest of us don't care. I'm just telling you a very hard...
Wait, you're saying you personally don't care?
I'm telling you a very hard, ugly truth, okay? Of all the things that I care about, yes, it is below my line. Okay? Of all the things that I care about, it is below my line.
Disappointing.
And that's where everybody across social media and Fox News or Tucker or Hannity or whatever, that's where they cut it. But if you push on just a couple more minutes, you will see that it's not quite that bad. They do make some decent points.
I think people, if you explain to them what's happening to the Uyghurs in China, they care, but it's not top of mind for them.
That's
boom, right? I think that's fair. Nobody wants to hear about slavery and internment camps. But right now, what's out of sight is out of mind, and that is a cold but honest, hard truth, unfortunately. And the left does this all the time. They want to take care of people clear across the world while the people in their own districts continue to suffer.
It's not
What's top of mind right now is they go to their grocery store and the shelves are empty.
Sure, that I care about. Yeah. I care about the fact that our economy could turn on a dime if China invades Taiwan. I care about that. I care about climate change.
Okay, so he cares about climate change, which I guess would put him pretty squarely on the left, and maybe that's why people are attacking him. So everybody on the right can see this left-wing billionaire basketball owner and say, look, he's such a monster. He doesn't care about the Uyghurs, but he also cares about climate change. So we'll just attack him and get those clicks.
You know, I care about I care about America's crippling and, decrepit healthcare infrastructure. But if you're asking me, do I care about a segment of a class of people in another country? Not until we can take care of ourselves will I prioritize them over us. And I think a lot of people...
And I think that's fair. It is unfortunate that it has to be that way. But right, what do they say? You have to secure your own mask when the plane is going down before you help somebody else put their mask on. So I think he has a fair point here, but that's just me.
Believe that. And I'm sorry if that's a hard truth to hear. But every time I say that I care about the Uyghurs, I'm really just lying if I don't really care. And so I'd rather not lie to you and tell you the truth. It's not a priority for me.
There we go. So he is admitting for the left-wing people admitting for the first time in a long time that they are just virtue signaling. He says, well, if I tell you I care about that, that would be a lie, right? So, and he's not a politician, so it doesn't really matter, but it is good. It is a little bit of breath of fresh air to hear somebody on the left actually tell the truth. And unfortunately, or for better or for worse, I think him saying he doesn't care about the Uyghurs has actually brought more attention to it than painting your shoes red or whatever this other basketball player was doing. I'm just saying. Those things were good and it made some headlines, but it didn't get any action. This will get more traction than painting your sneakers a different color.
And my response to that is, I think it's a sad state of affairs when human rights as a concept globally, falls beneath, tactical and strategic issues that we have.
Human rights as a concept globally. So that is in the wind. That's in the ether. What does that even mean, bro? We're going to talk about the human rights being violated right here in, the state of New York or in the state of California, where people can't go to a gym or go to a restaurant without their papers. Are those human rights violations? And I know that's not the same as slavery. That's not the point I'm trying to make. But the point I am trying to make is that we have a boatload of problems that we need to deal with here before we turn our attention to some people clear across the world.
We need to have
another
a high
luxury
watermark.
belief. That's another luxury belief.
I don't believing in the Human Declaration of Human Rights that Eleanor Roosevelt
It's a
created with the
luxury
United
belief.
Nations. I don't think it's a luxury belief to believe that all humans should have a basic set of human rights.
I think
That
it's
is
a luxury
basic
belief.
right. Far
And the
from
reason
it.
I think it's a luxury belief is we don't do enough domestically to actually express that view in real tangible ways. So until we actually clean up our own house, the idea that we step outside of our borders with us sort of like morally virtue signaling about somebody else's human rights track record is deplorable. Look at the number of black and
Far
brown
from
men that are
deplorable. Far from deplorable.
Look at the number of black and brown men that are incarcerated for absolutely ridiculous crimes. I don't know if you saw this past week, but there was a person that was released from jail because he couldn't even be protected in jail because in some of these cells, they run these fight clubs inside of Rikers Island that are basically tacitly endorsed by the corrections officers that don't do anything.
And the difference?
So hold on, Jason. So if you want to talk about the human rights of people, I think we have a responsibility to take care of our own backyard first. And then we can go and basically morally tell other people how they should be running their own countries.
Okay, and I think he brings up some good points. I read that story about the fight nights in Rikers Island, and that is an entirely different set of problems because I don't even think, unfortunately, maybe I just have a cold black heart, but I don't think the prisoners in Rikers Island even deserve as much attention as the New Yorkers, the taxpaying citizens of New York who can't go to a restaurant without their papers. So you can go watch this entire podcast. I will link it in the bio. Start around the 14-minute mark or something if you want to just jump straight to it. But I think if you watch this with a little bit more context, all the pearls should not be clutched really how they were.